audits I did was for a patent title called Materials Handling Engineering in Cleveland, Ohio. Fast forward to today, and the patent today, and now it's an organization that's developing SaaS-based workflow tools and has acquired digital marketing services opportunities for its customers, and really has, with the leadership of Warren Bimblick, who is our speaker, and David Kisselstein, the CEO, really has transformed Penton into a business information and media company. And we're delighted to have Warren speak with us this morning. So please welcome Warren Bimblick.
Thank you, Mike. Nice to see a lot of new faces. I think the ABM SIIA merger is a good thing because I don't know a lot of people out there anymore. So thanks for the introduction. I'm going to do a pretty quick little talk about Penton and the journey we've been on for the last few years. I only have 4 slides, which is going to be sort of a fun new way to. It's mean I'm going to have to actually think about what I'm saying. So the way Mike introduced us is exactly the way we hope in a couple of years we'll never be introduced again. And the point there being, not to criticize Mike, is we wish we didn't have 100 years of heritage. We really want to be thought of as a brand new company. So what I'm going to talk about here a little bit is how we like to think of ourselves, how we like our customers to think of ourselves, and how we absolutely want everyone to think of us. So how many of you know what Penton is? Oh, damn it. Okay. All right. So you know that if I were standing up here 2 years ago, I'd be saying, we're the biggest B2B media company with the most magazines and the most websites and the most trade shows. And, biggest. In fact, what we've now reorganized and look at as a company is that we're actually the most focused. And we've reorganized the company to look at us as being in 5 different verticals, 5 broad verticals: agriculture, transportation, infrastructure, manufacturing and industrial design, and natural products. And yeah, there's a couple of our businesses that we love that don't exactly fit everywhere or fit neatly in there, but we're trying to be focused. What that means is we also want to look at what our product offering is. And again, I would have said to you 180 magazines and 1 billion this and 400 that. And our salespeople would go into customers and talk the same way. Remember sell sheets? You go in with another sell sheet. I was in a meeting a couple of weeks ago with a client, and old salesperson, good salesperson, but she sat across the table from a very sophisticated client and kept handing out sell sheets, and I wanted to slap her wrist. It's about taking what was a heavy bag, and again, didn't we all add more tricks to the bag? There was marketing services, there's trade shows, there's SEO, all these things, to actually thinking of ourselves and presenting ourselves as solutions. And so I'm going to just show you a couple of things here. 3 new products we've launched in the last several months. This is called Govalytics. Govalytics is a software product. It comes out of our infrastructure group, which has a history in American City and County and matching up marketers who are trying to reach the government with government officials who are buyers, and also another group of products called Price Digest and Equipment Watch, which is pricing tools for government. Team got together, we put a couple of people on a kind of a SWAT team, and they came up with Govalytics, which essentially is a tool that if you're a manufacturer trying to reach the government to buy things like lawnmowers for playgrounds, this tool helps you predict when those RFPs are going to come out. No tool existed like this before. Launched it right before Christmas. It's selling like hotcakes. Another example, one of our oldest brands is Trust and Estates. I refer to Trust and Estates as kind of a left elbow product. It's this fussy little product that's a magazine, that's a peer-reviewed journal, costs $250, and if you're an estate planning attorney, you have to read this. There's only 15,000 such in the country, and they all get it. What we realize, though, is we give you 12 articles a month. There is a ton of other content out there that these people would like. But you're not going to subscribe to 70 different things to get perhaps one article every so often. The Harvard Business Review may have one article every so often. So what we did was we created an app, Upsell, that is essentially a Trust and Estates Plus, and it aggregates our content created specifically for the app, plus content that comes in from 70 other places. And the point being, this is your aggregated library of information related to this particular field. And we think there's a lot of opportunity for this type of product in other areas, and clearly even more opportunity if, instead of just feeding the product in, we're also having our editors touch it and think about commenting on it and linking and so forth. Third example is, again, a fairly old product, AccuQuick. AccuQuick is what a business or a private pilot would use to do flight planning. It's a book that's this high, this wide, and this thick. It lists every airport, every FBO in the world in it. Gulfstream has a slot in the plane for this book. We don't dare change the dimensions. But you don't want books anymore, right? And so we've created this. This is now our new app, again, doing quite well. And what it has in here is you can do your flight planning right in an app. And it's the next generation, and it can be used in a cockpit because technology changes. In the last year now, you can actually use this. What's so fascinating about this product in this industry is there's still the need for the print product for some time to come because of redundancy issues in a cockpit. So, we want to get rid of all print ultimately. This one is probably going to have to stick around a bit. But again, it has all kinds of enhancements in it, and it's merged now what used to be just a tool with marketing services, advertising, lead generation. I can follow a pilot where he's going and give a lead to an FBO, and it's very, very cool. There's three examples. Back to our journey, we used to talk about ourselves as we have 7 million names. Why? 7 million names that Rick Kelly has audited at BPA, and they're fabulous and they're wonderful and they're a big blob. But in some ways, they were a necessary evil to sell advertising, right? You kept a rate base of 70,000 on a title, on a controlled circulation title, because your competitor had 68,000. We've all lived that, correct? Now it's about who are the right people and who are those right people in a particular area. So we now do something that's called we do day parting of a user's life. So we're looking at who those people are. If you have 70,000 on a particular product, who are those people? How do they act? What products do they like? And how do they use them? So an example would be in agriculture. We're the largest agricultural media company in the US. Farmers aren't sitting around all day all afternoon reading magazines. They're also not necessarily sitting on websites. They get up in the morning, they're on the website, they go out into the field, they're on their mobile device. Mobile, big opportunity with ag. Take another example, we're big in with financial advisors. Financial advisors have a whole different flow to their life. So we're spending a lot of time in our technology department, editorial groups, working on day parting and looking at where do you hit people, where do you get people at different parts of their day. What is their day like? And you can't make generalizations about everybody. We own a couple of properties where, like for example, Waste Expo, which is haulers. Those people aren't on trucks every day. How do you want to reach them? They're on their mobile devices. Maybe it's audio. Maybe it's audio on a device. So we're thinking about media more broadly than the stuff we normally used to. Tiny bets to growth engines. Our CEO likes to say Penton was a company that let 1,000 flowers bloom. We were very siloed, and you had little things all over the place. And we felt good that we were trying things, but you could also try something, it would never go anywhere, and there were no consequences of it because you really didn't do much. There's a little bit of what you were talking about before. It didn't much matter. Now we're looking at growth engines, and we put a strategic plan together a couple of years ago that included talking to advertisers, talking to users, readers, and we came up with some growth incubators. Some of those are small and medium-sized businesses. Turns out a big chunk of our users are small, medium-sized businesses. And they're small businesses that may be 100 years old, highly successful, and they're not reading magazines or going to websites about how to do a startup. So it's very hard to find those people. And advertisers are going, yeah, if we can find those people inside of your, where they live in your endemic areas, it's very interesting. So we have a whole issue around that. Education. Turned out that we had a huge disconnect between what we thought about education and what our users thought. Our users told us, we don't know where to go for online education. Of course, this isn't universal, but in several million of our subscribers. They said, yeah, there's trade associations, but we have to travel to get somewhere. We want to do things online, and we don't know where to go. So we are building, and it's one of my babies, a digital education business. Probably to get into this, we'll make an acquisition, of a platform, but it's really kind of fascinating that we just never really got into this area other than what we would do at trade shows, which would be a sequence. But where do you make your money at a trade show? It's the booths. So this is a whole new area for us. Back office technology to growth enabling technology. Brad Mell is, I know, sitting here thinking exactly about that because he lived it with us for a while. We're private equity owned. We want to be efficient. We want to have a really strong bottom line. It makes us more valuable. But you have to think beyond technology that is just about being more efficient. It's how do you actually how do you actually employ technology that drives sales, drives new product development, and so forth. So we just brought in a new chief data officer, CDO, really brilliant guy. His most recent gig was the government, and he can't tell us what he was doing. Have you ever worked with somebody who can't tell you doesn't have a resume? It's bizarre. But he's a really great guy, and we're looking at, even to the point of the other day we saw some technology that's going to enable an editor to see exactly what readers are reading on his or her website at any moment and be able to then adjust, they're reading about canned peas, and I thought they were going to be reading about creamed corn, change the offering. I said if I were 30 years younger, I would have wanted to be the guy looking at that thing, because it's just so fascinating. And imagine that with marketers as well. We're a company, this is the company that was Primedia merged with Penton, we're successful, a lot of mergers and stuff, tons of acquisitions, and I'd say buying spree. We'd buy stuff, we'd get into 17 different verticals, we'd be happy to add a new one just because we could and it was available and we can make money at it. Now we have a very, very focused lens on what we will acquire. So you may know that back last summer we acquired Aviation Week from McGraw-Hill. Why? We really targeted aviation. It's part of our transportation area. We believe it's a fast growth, high technology, global area. We really like that area. And I don't know how many times during the day I talk with bankers and so forth. They say, well, this is really great. The numbers are great. Does not fit with our lens. We might get into a new vertical, but it has to be chunky. It can't be something that we, don't know a lot about. And then I think finally, we have 1,100, 1,200 employees, and it used to be, they're the longest served, most loyal, and they add up to 9 million years of combined service, which is just, who cares? Today, what we really want to be, and is we want to be a hot company to work for, and that's really important to us. Of our senior leadership group, which is about 130 people, 40% of them are either new to the company or new to their jobs in the last 18 months. We're hiring people, we're able to recruit people from, I got to check my notes here, from Amazon, Verizon, Condé Nast, Advanced Publications. We've started a whole data group down in Atlanta, in our Atlanta office. We're getting people out of Georgia Tech whoever thought they'd come to work for a B2B media company. So it's really an important thing. And you know what? We have hired somebody who is just in charge of recruitment. And you know what she spends her entire day on? Is LinkedIn. We have not paid a recruitment fee in the last year. We hired somebody to do it all in-house. And she's finding people who you never thought you would ever find. It's just amazing. So that gets back to growth enabling technology. I'm going to shut up for now. That's my presentation. Ask questions.
Warren, Jerry Mintz. Question for you, how you've, you and I have talked about this, how you've structured internally to leverage some of the core competencies that are necessary for the different vertical businesses. I'd like you to comment.
Yeah,
on
how
that.
do we organize to leverage the capabilities? It's hard. I mean, it's hard because the company's been so siloed. So, it's about bringing in disruptors and identifying disruptors. It's about having collaborative councils where there's actually incentives around sharing ideas rather than, oh, that's mine, I can't give it to you because you'll mess it up. It's really a lot about people. It's about, it's about using our intranet, which is being revamped, to make it more of a place where people go and share ideas. It's about our CEO, who's a really, really good communicator. It was interesting. For years and years, since we're a private company, it was, well, we never give out results, we can't share any data, we can't share any information. And we said, well, why? I mean, actually, if you're a public company, you don't want to share information. If you're a private company, you can use it to motivate, So we now have, our CEO now has quarterly calls with all employees, and he gives them the numbers. And he tells them where the problems are and where the opportunities are, and it's not just, pablum. So, it's like that Govalytics product. That was developed by a group in the government space, in our government infrastructure vertical. But the folks who got put on the team came from more broadly, broader places. Some of it gets to, you've got to figure out what bureaucracy is useful and what bureaucracy isn't. Part of it's about vendors. Actually listening to vendors, not just giving them an RFP, listening to what's new and different. We have a couple things going on right now where, we know we made decisions about vendors 3, 4, 5 years ago that were wrong. And we treated them as vendors rather than partners. So I don't know if that's helpful, but it's a lot of work. It's probably the most work.
Warren, you had mentioned the development of looking horizontally across the many markets that you're in to identify new segments by characteristics other than what industry they're in. The example you gave about small to mid-sized businesses. Could you speak to organizationally how you're designing the company to capitalize on those newer opportunities?
Yeah, it's so we brought in somebody who I think was at UBM, who supercell salesperson who's in charge of the small SMB vertical, and she, her first job was to get to know the whole company and get to know the file. Also, get to know or build on the knowledge that a publisher does not own his names; the company owns the names. It's which is a big mindset change. It's like those are Penton's names, and therefore they are available for Penton's use. So bringing in, we brought in a head of marketing, in education. I mean, each one of the SVPs has their own area. Education, so that's mine, but I'll be hiring or making an acquisition to actually do that, and then that person will work across the whole company. The other thing I think we've done, well, like for example with education, is once we did the research, we then did some more research where we went in and talked to what we call market leaders, somebody in charge of each market, and their folks around where are the biggest opportunities. So, in education, we know that in a lot of our industrial businesses, there's really big opportunities. Financial services, stockbrokers, big business, but I don't need to go there, that's saturated. So it's about picking the spaces where we think we have the best opportunity. And I think also being supportive of people and being not crushing people for failure.
Jay Carr Gamble. Question for you. It's really a two-part question. One is, what institutional structures do you have in the organization to promote innovations? And for example, do you have specific goals of X new product innovation or a certain amount of revenue coming from new projects? And then what institutional structures do you have that, you know, would help to, you know, achieve those goals in terms of, you know, brainstorming meetings, whatever?
Okay, I think to the second part of your question, I would say HR today is more about motivation and having strong people who are working alongside high potential people. We're just putting in place a high potential program. And so it's less about just HR being about Oregon comp, which historically it was. To the first part of your question, what was I going to say there? I lost it. Repeat it again. Just goals. I'm sorry. That was it. Goals. So I don't even think all of our employees know this yet, but historically our goals for management and editors were all about efficiency and EBITDA. This year we are going to be putting in goals that a portion of your incentive comp is tied to meeting your revenue number. And that has never happened before. It's always, and look, you know, those of us who are in this business, we know we always figure out how to save a nickel to meet our bottom line. You know, we're pretty good at that. Not good at meeting the top line goals. And so that's going to be a big structural change. It'll be a good big experiment this year. If you don't meet your budget revenue or certain, I forget what the exact percentage of that you have to meet, you can't collect your whole bonus. It's a big change.
Hey, Warren, how do you get the world to believe in the new Penton reality versus yesterday's Penton's perception, other than coming to conferences like this and telling us about it?
Yeah. Well, you know, again, this is a company that never had, we never had a slot, a position of Senior Vice President, Marketing and Communications. We brought somebody in about a year ago. Kate Spellman had been at UBM, and part of her mandate is getting that image changed. I mean, we've hired a PR investor relations consulting firm. This company would never have done that before. And we are it's interesting because, you know, our CEO is very charismatic, gets a lot of requests to speak and so forth, or to write or whatever. And we say no a lot now if it's not where we want to be positioned. And we have a target list of conferences that we want to speak at. So, you know, we're doing some new branding, you know, logo, that kind of stuff. It's about getting to know, a lot of it's about getting to know different people. It's not easy. For years, communications reported to me as a sort of a sideline. I am so glad it's not mine now. And part of it is also that we have a CEO, you know, David is with us about a little over, well, I think it's 2 years tomorrow. He's a marketing guy. I mean, he started his life at Time Inc. in audience marketing, you know, was Parenting Magazine, Fortune, that kind of stuff. Different kind of CEOs, and hopefully he'll stick around and we'll make the company valuable because we, you know, aren't you who that used to be? That kind of thing.
Time for one more question.
Warren, you mentioned when you were talking about the Trust and Estates product, the creation of an app that's sort of a gateway aggregator app to, I think you said 70 other products, which I inferred were not Penton editorial.
Correct.
Not Penton content. Is that a business model change? I mean, actually acquiring / licensing external content for your own gateways? Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's, boy, is that hard to get across with some editors, but we have to, and there's a fine line. I know there's aggregation and there's curation. I know they're different. But we have to become aggregators and curators of other content, because if I want you as an estate planning attorney, let's say, to be coming to me and not someplace else, I have to access in a, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter world. I have to have access to what you ought to see, and it can't possibly be, Trust and Estates. Trust and Estates has 3 editors. I can't possibly be creating all of the content, and the role of the editor, who we're now calling content leaders, is changing dramatically. And in some cases, it's about also changing the type of content we're giving. Doing carousels or photo galleries of content that, we own wealthmanagement.com, and the highest trafficked content on there are when we list top 10 this, top 10 that. It's not just about reporting. It's actually kind of fun stuff. Did something a few weeks ago about 10 lessons a financial advisor should learn from the Madoff scandal. It was hysterically funny. And at $250 CPMs, I made a lot of money that day. So, anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. We're now moving to the one-on-one connections and the break. So enjoy the break, and we'll be reconvening shortly.
Bells around St. Petersburg when I saw you. I hope I